The radiation detectors started screaming at exactly 14:32 station time, which was unfortunate timing, because Shift Supervisor Kethvor had just taken his first sip of heated nutrition paste. Red warning lights bathed Mining Station Kepler 438 in the color of imminent death as automated systems announced what everyone already knew. Critical radiation leak detected. Evacuation procalled to emergency stations. By the void, Kethvor snarled, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking with agitation. Which sector? Sector 12, sir, his aide replied, mandibles chattering nervously. Primary reactor coolant line has ruptured. Radiation levels are climbing past Class 5 exposure limits. Around the station, aliens of a dozen species were running, screaming, or making whatever sounds their species made when facing radioactive death. The Zephyrians were molting stress scales all over the corridors. The crystalline Veltar were chiming like broken wind instruments. Even the stoic Threnodidae were making nervous clicking sounds that translated roughly to, "We're all going to die." But in the chaos, one figure moved with calm purpose through the evacuation routes. Raven. Kethvor spotted her through the station's surveillance feeds, walking against the flow of panicked evacuees like someone heading to the commissary for second breakfast instead of away from lethal radiation. "What is Raven doing?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. She appears to be heading towards Sector 12. Toward the radiation leak?" Sir." Kethvor's compound eyes focused on the screen, showing the small, pale figure moving through corridors that should have been empty. The radiation levels in those areas were already approaching lethal doses for most galactic species. "Contact her immediately. Order her to evacuation point 3. The communications officer tried, and tried again, and kept trying. 10. "Sir, she's not responding to comms." "Where not?" "According to her file, she's working." Kethvor's exoskeleton clicked rapidly, the equivalent of a nervous breakdown in his species. "Working? In a radiation zone?" "Apparently, sir." On the screen, Raven disappeared around a corner, heading directly toward the source of the leak that was sending every other living being on the station into full panic mode. "Sir," the aide ventured, "should we send a rescue team?" Kethvor looked at the radiation readings. Class 6 and climbing. Class 6 was the level at which most galactic species started dying within minutes. No one can survive those levels. She'll be dead before a rescue team could suit up. But even as he said it, something nagged at the back of his mind. Something about Raven's work assignments over the past 3 months. Something he'd been too busy to pay attention to. Something impossible. 3 months ago, when Raven had first arrived at Mining Station Kepler 438, Kethvor had taken one look at her and immediately assigned her to the lowest risk duties available. She was tiny by galactic standards, barely reaching his thorax in height. Her skin looked paper-thin compared to his reinforced exoskeleton. She had no natural armor, no radiation-resistant biology, no obvious defensive capabilities whatsoever. "Maintenance duties only," he'd told his staff. "Equipment cleaning, inventory management, basic repairs in safe zones. Nothing that could put her at risk." The other supervisors had agreed. Raven looked fragile enough to break if someone sneezed too hard near her. "Humans are a Category 2 species," Safety Coordinator Velnex had noted in her crystalline voice. "Minimal radiation tolerance, requires constant environmental support, unsuitable for hazardous duty." So they'd kept her in the safe zones, doing grunt work that anyone could handle. Simple, low-risk assignments in areas with minimal radiation exposure. Except now, looking at her work logs on his emergency terminal, Kethvor was seeing something that made his compound eyes ache. "Aide, pull up Raven's assignment history." "Sir, shouldn't we focus on the evacuation?" "Pull up the files. Now." The data appeared on his screen, and Kethvor felt something cold settle in his digestive tract. For the past 3 months, Raven had been assigned to maintenance duties in sectors with minimal radiation exposure. According to their safety protocols, minimal meant levels that were safe for all galactic species, but the actual readings from those sectors told a different story. "Aide, what are the current radiation levels in Sector 8? "Class 3, sir. Standard for deep space mining operations. And Raven has been working there for... how long?" "Daily shifts for the past 6 weeks, sir." "Class 3 radiation." Kethvor felt his exoskeleton plates shift nervously. Class 3 was considered safe for his species for limited exposure, maybe an hour or two, before requiring decontamination. Raven had been working 8-hour shifts in those conditions. What about Sector 15? Class 4, sir. Raven completed repairs there last week. Class 4. That was approaching dangerous levels even for heavily armored species. Kethvor's people required full protective gear for Class 4 exposure. Raven had apparently fixed a coolant pump there while wearing nothing but standard work coveralls. Sir, his aide said nervously, the evacuation is nearly complete. We need to move to the emergency command center. But Kethvor was staring at the files, his mind reeling. For 3 months, they'd been sending the fragile human into radiation zones that would have required safety gear, limited exposure times, and medical monitoring for any other species, and she'd been treating it like routine maintenance. How is this possible? He muttered. Sir, Raven, look at these readings. She's been working in radiation levels that should have killed her. The aide's mandibles clicked nervously as he reviewed the data. Perhaps there's an error in the sensors. For 3 months, in multiple sectors? On the surveillance feeds, emergency response teams were scrambling toward Sector 12. The elite hazard response unit, 12 of the galaxy's toughest, most radiation-resistant specialists, each equipped with military-grade protective suits that cost more than most planets' annual budgets. They moved with professional efficiency through the corridors, checking their equipment, confirming radiation readings, preparing for what everyone assumed would be a recovery mission, because no one could survive in Sector 12 now. The readings were approaching Class 8, levels that could cook DNA in minutes. The team reached the final checkpoint before Sector 12. Team leader Zax Prime's voice crackled through the comm system as his massive, armored form checked the seals on his protective gear. Command, we're at Checkpoint Delta. Radiation levels beyond this point are Class 8 and climbing. Even with full protection, we have maybe 10 minutes before mandatory withdrawal. Acknowledged, Zax Prime. Proceed with extreme caution. The team moved through the airlock into Sector 12, their heavy protective suits making them look like walking tanks. Their radiation detectors were screaming constantly now, warning of exposure levels that could kill most species in under 5 minutes. They advanced carefully through the corridor, scanning for any sign of Raven. The leak was coming from the primary reactor coolant system, a critical failure that would require the station to be evacuated if they couldn't repair it quickly. Command, Zax Prime reported. We're approaching the reactor access point. No sign of Raven. She's probably— Wait! His voice cut off abruptly. Zax Prime, report. Command, I need you to confirm something. Are our sensors malfunctioning? Negative. All readings are accurate. What's your status? There was a long pause. Then Zax Prime's voice returned, and it carried a note that Kethvor had never heard from the unflappable team leader before. Confusion. And something that might have been fear. Command, I'm looking at Raven right now. Her body. How close can you get for recovery? No, sir. I'm looking at the living human. She's sitting on a crate next to the reactor leak, eating what appears to be a meal. Silence filled the command center. Repeat that, Zax Prime. Raven is alive, conscious, and eating lunch approximately 3 meters from a Class 8 radiation source. She appears to be completely unaffected. Kethvor's exoskeleton made a sound like breaking ceramics. Around the command center, his staff had gone completely silent. Zax Prime, confirm your position and readings. Sector 12, reactor access level. Radiation readings are Class 8 and climbing toward Class 9. Raven is not wearing any protective gear. She's eating what looks like a sandwich. On the surveillance feed, they could see it now. The hazard response team in their massive protective suits, approaching a small figure sitting calmly next to a reactor that was leaking enough radiation to sterilize a small moon. Raven looked up at the approaching team and waved, like she was greeting neighbors at a picnic. Command. Zax Prime's voice was strained. Raven is attempting to communicate. They patched through her comm signal. Hey guys, came Raven's voice, clear and conversational. Bit of a mess down here, isn't it? I think I've got the main leak isolated, but you're going to want to replace the entire coolant coupling assembly. Should take maybe an hour if we can get the right parts. Every being in the command center was staring at the screen. Did she just— Kethvor began. Say she isolated the leak, his aide finished. In Class 8 radiation, without protective gear? Raven stood up, brushing crumbs off her work coveralls, and gestured toward the reactor housing. The problem started about 40 minutes ago when coupling Section 12M failed. I've got it temporarily sealed, but it's not going to hold for long. We probably want to handle this before it gets worse. Zax Prime's voice was barely audible. Raven, what are your current radiation exposure readings? Oh, I don't really track that stuff. Never seemed important. The silence that followed was the kind usually reserved for moments when entire civilizations realized they'd made fundamental errors about the nature of reality. Raven, Kethvor's voice cracked through the comm system. How long have you been in Sector 12? About 45 minutes, give or take. Had to finish my rounds in Sector 9 first. Her tone was conversational, like she was discussing the weather rather than lethal radiation exposure. Why? Is there some kind of problem? Dr. Hextally, the station's chief medical officer, pushed through the crowd in the command center. Her 6 arms were gesticulating wildly in what her species considered barely controlled panic. Supervisor Kethvor, we need to evacuate Raven immediately. According to our medical databases, a human exposed to Class 8 radiation for 45 minutes should be experiencing severe cellular breakdown, organ failure, and imminent death. Should be, Kethvor repeated slowly, but apparently isn't. On the screen, Raven had pulled out what appeared to be a diagnostic scanner and was running it over the reactor housing with professional competence. Yeah, this coupling is definitely shot. Looks like metal fatigue combined with thermal stress. Probably been building up for weeks. Zax Prime's massive armored form shifted nervously. Raven, are you feeling any symptoms? Nausea, dizziness, cellular pain? Nope. Feel fine. Little hungry, maybe, but I skipped breakfast. She paused in her scanning. Actually, now that you mention it, I've been wondering why everyone keeps the break room so cool. The temperature in these reactor sectors is way more comfortable. Dr. Hextally's medical display lit up with readings that made her species equivalent of hyperventilation. She finds Class 8 radiation comfortable? Apparently so, Kethvor replied. His compound eyes locked on the surveillance feed. That's impossible. Radiation at those levels should be causing immediate DNA damage. Her cells should be dying faster than they can regenerate. Communications officer Nimkar had been quietly running diagnostics on all station sensors for the past 10 minutes. His crystalline form was flickering with confused patterns as he reported his findings. Supervisor, I've confirmed all radiation sensors are functioning correctly. I've also checked Raven's personal monitoring badge, and her cumulative exposure over the past 3 months should have killed any known galactic species approximately 847 times over. The number hung in the air like a death sentence for everything they thought they understood about biology. 847 times? Dr. Hextally's voice climbed several octaves. How is she even conscious? More importantly, Kethvor muttered, how is she better at reactor maintenance than our engineering specialists? Because that was becoming undeniably clear. While 12 of the galaxy's elite hazard response specialists stood around in their protective gear, trying to process the impossibility of her existence, Raven was efficiently diagnosing and repairing a critical system failure. Command, Zax Prime reported. Raven is requesting we send down replacement parts for coupling assembly 12B. She says she can have the repair completed in 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Chief Engineer Volkness spoke up from his position at the engineering console. That repair requires a full technical team, specialized tools, and at least 6 hours of careful work. Raven seems to disagree, Zax Prime replied. On the screen, they watched Raven pull a multi-tool from her belt and begin disassembling components that should have required industrial equipment to remove. Her movements were confident, practiced, efficient. Has she done this before? Kethvor asked. Chief Engineer Vok Ness was scrolling through maintenance logs with increasing bewilderment. According to these records, Raven has completed 234 repair tasks over the past 3 months, tasks that should have taken teams of specialists. And she's done them all in radiation environments that should have killed her. Why didn't anyone notice this before? Because we assumed the radiation readings were wrong, Vok Ness admitted. When repair reports showed completion times that fast, we figured someone had miscalibrated the environmental sensors. We never imagined someone was actually working in those conditions. Dr. Hextally was staring at her medical scanner like it had personally betrayed her. I need to run a full biological analysis. This defies every principle of known physics. Good luck with that, Kethvor said grimly. Something tells me we're going to need to rewrite a few textbooks, and that's when Kethvor realized that everything they thought they knew about humans was catastrophically wrong. Dr. Hextali had seen a lot of impossible things in her 30-cycle medical career. She'd treated Zephyrians who'd survived vacuum exposure, crystalline beings who'd regenerated from near-complete shattering, and even a Threndai who'd somehow grown back a severed limb. But Raven's medical readings were making her question whether she understood biology at all. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, staring at the scanner data for the 5th time. Around her, the medical bay hummed with equipment that was apparently useless for understanding human physiology. Station Commander Thalwyn had arrived 20 minutes ago, his imposing figure filling the medical bay doorway. As a Corvarian, he stood nearly 9 feet tall, with natural armor plating that could deflect most small arms fire. He was the kind of being who commanded respect simply by existing. Right now, he looked like he was having an existential crisis. "Explain it to me again, Doctor," Commander Thelwyn said, his voice carrying the weight of someone trying to maintain authority while reality crumbled around him. Dr. Hextali gestured helplessly at her displays. "According to every medical principle we understand, Raven should be dead. Not just dead, she should have died months ago. Her cumulative radiation exposure is beyond anything we've ever recorded. But she's not dead. System is not even slightly ill. In fact, her cellular activity is remarkably robust. Her immune system is functioning at optimal levels. Her tissue repair mechanisms are extraordinary. And her overall biological markers are those of someone in peak health." Commander Thelwyn's armor plates shifted, a sign of deep agitation in his species. "Are you telling me that radiation is good for humans?" "I'm telling you that radiation appears to have no negative effect on this human whatsoever. It's as if her biology operates on completely different principles than every other known species." Through the medical bay's viewport, they could see Sector 12, where Raven had completed her repair work and was now apparently organizing tools. The radiation levels were still climbing, now approaching Class 9. A level that would sterilize most planetary surfaces. Raven looked like she was having the best day of her career. "Sir," Dr. Hextali continued, "I need to request permission to conduct a comprehensive biological study. If humans can withstand this level of radiation exposure, it represents a fundamental breakthrough in our understanding of—" "Doctor," came Raven's voice over the comm system, interrupting the conversation. "Sorry to bother you, but I was wondering if anyone wanted some coffee? I've got a thermal unit down here, and I made way too much." The medical bay fell silent. Commander Thelwyn stared at the comm speaker. Did she just offer to serve refreshments from inside a lethal radiation zone? "Apparently so, sir." "Coffee," the commander repeated slowly. "She's making coffee in Class 9 radiation." Dr. Hextali was frantically checking her instruments again. The thermal signature suggests she's actually using the ambient radiation to heat the beverage. "She's what?" "She appears to be using the reactor leak as a cooking source." Commander Thelwyn sat down heavily on a medical examination table, which creaked ominously under his armored weight. "Doctor, I need you to be very clear with me. In your professional medical opinion, what exactly are we dealing with?" Dr. Hextali was quiet for a long moment, reviewing data that challenged everything she'd learned in medical school. "Sir, I believe we're dealing with a species that evolved under conditions far more hostile than anything we've encountered. Earth's classification as a Category 2 world appears to be catastrophically incorrect." "How incorrect?" "Sir, if Raven is representative of human biology, then Earth should be classified as approximately Category 15. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Commander Thelwyn's armor plates clicking nervously. "Category 15, he repeated. "Doctor, there is no Category 15. "No, sir. The scale only goes to Category 12 for worlds so hostile that they're considered uninhabitable death traps. And you're suggesting Earth is worse than that?" "I'm suggesting that what we call uninhabitable death traps might be what humans call a nice day at the beach." Meanwhile, in the station's administrative center, a different kind of crisis was unfolding. Deputy Commander Yelthon was staring at organizational charts that no longer made any sense. As a logistics specialist, his job was to ensure the right beings were assigned to the right tasks based on their capabilities and clearance levels. Problem was that their lowest clearance worker had just outperformed their highest-trained specialists in conditions that should have killed her instantly. This creates significant administrative challenges, he reported to Commander Thelwyn through the comm system. Raven is classified as Level 1 personnel with minimal technical clearance. She's not authorized to access restricted areas, handle critical systems, or perform repairs above basic maintenance. And yet she just saved the station from a reactor meltdown? The commander replied. Yes, sir. Which creates what we might call a hierarchy problem. Chief Engineer Voknes was reviewing Raven's repair work through remote cameras, and his expression was that of someone watching his entire profession become obsolete. Her technique is flawless. She's not just fixing the immediate problem. She's identifying and correcting underlying issues that our diagnostics missed. How is that possible? Deputy Commander Yelthan asked. I have no idea. She's using tools that aren't designed for those repairs, working in conditions that should make precision work impossible, and achieving results that should require a full engineering team. Through the comm system, they could hear Raven humming what sounded like an ancient human work song. She appeared to be completely content. Sir, Deputy Commander Yelthan continued, we need to address the clearance issue. If Raven can perform critical repairs in hostile environments, we may need to completely restructure our personnel classifications. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that our entry-level human worker might need to be reclassified as our most valuable technical specialist. Commander Thelwyn considered this. And what would that do to station hierarchy? It would mean that our most junior employee is potentially our most capable engineer, which makes a mockery of our entire organizational structure. Chief Engineer Voknes was still watching Raven work. She's now performing preventive maintenance on systems that aren't scheduled for service for another 6 months, and she's doing it better than our certified specialists. This is unprecedented, Deputy Commander Yelthan muttered. How do we classify someone who appears to be immune to the conditions that define hazardous duty? The answer came in the form of an emergency alert that made everyone's previous problems seem trivial. All stations, this is stellar monitoring. We have detected massive solar flare activity from Kepler 438. Radiation storm will reach station in approximately 63 minutes. Implement emergency shelter. Protocol, immediately. Commander Thelwyn felt his armor plates lock into stress position. Solar flares from Kepler 438 primary were legendary for their intensity. The last recorded flare had sterilized 3 mining stations and rendered an entire moon uninhabitable. All departments, report to emergency stations. Implement Code Crimson protocols. Code Crimson meant total station shutdown. All personnel would retreat to the heavily shielded core sections and wait for the radiation storm to pass. It also meant that any critical systems that failed during the storm would remain failed until the radiation levels dropped enough for repair crews to function, usually several days. Sir, Chief Engineer Voknes's voice was grim. We have a problem. The reactor repairs that Raven completed are holding, but they're temporary. If that coupling fails during the radiation storm, we'll lose primary power. The emergency generators won't handle life support for the entire station population. How long do we have? Unknown. The temporary seal could last hours or minutes. There's no way to predict failure under storm conditions. And no one can work in those radiation levels to make permanent repairs? Chief Engineer Voknes was quiet for a moment. No one except Raven. Sir, the radiation levels during a Class 12 solar storm exceed anything we've ever measured. It would be like asking someone to work inside a star. Through the comm system, Raven's voice cut through their conversation with characteristic casualness. Hey, Command, I'm picking up some interesting readings on the solar monitoring equipment down here. Looks like we're about to get hit with a pretty serious radiation event. Want me to stick around and keep an eye on the reactor? I've got plenty of coffee. Commander Thelwyn stared at the comm speaker, realizing that their survival might depend entirely on the willingness of one small human to continue treating lethal radiation like a minor inconvenience. Raven, he said carefully, would you be able to complete permanent repairs to the reactor during the radiation storm? Oh, sure. Actually, this might be the perfect time. The ambient energy will make welding a lot easier, and I won't have to worry about anyone getting in the way. The casual confidence in her voice was almost more unsettling than the approaching stellar apocalypse. Raven, Dr. Hextelly's voice joined the conversation. The radiation levels during the storm will be approximately 50 times higher than what you're experiencing now. Cool. I was starting to get a little chilly, and that's when everyone realized that they weren't just dealing with a human who could survive in radiation. They were dealing with a human who preferred it. The evacuation klaxons had been wailing for 38 minutes when Raven calmly walked past the last checkpoint, heading directly towards Sector 12, while every other living being on the station fled in the opposite direction. Security Chief Kronville watched through the surveillance feeds as his entire security apparatus, beings trained for the most dangerous situations in galactic space, scrambled toward the reinforced core shelters with barely controlled panic. Behind them, radiation detectors were already screaming warnings about the approaching solar storm. "She's actually doing it," he breathed, his scaled hide rippling with disbelief. "She's walking into a Class 12 radiation storm with a toolbox." Commander Thalwyn stood beside him in the emergency command center, watching the feeds from behind 6 feet of radiation shielding that was supposed to protect them from the apocalypse heading their way. "Has she requested any protective equipment?" "No, sir. She declined the hazmat suit, the radiation blockers, and the emergency oxygen supply. She did ask for a second thermal flask for her coffee." On the screen, Raven moved through corridors that were already reading Class 10 radiation, levels that would kill most species in under 30 seconds. She looked like someone taking a pleasant stroll through a park. "Current readings in her location?" Commander Thelwyn asked. "Class 10 and climbing rapidly. The storm front is 12 minutes out." Communications Officer Nimkar's crystalline form was flickering with stress patterns as he monitored the external sensors. "Sir, the radiation readings from the solar flare are beyond our measurement capabilities. Our instruments are calling it immeasurable threat level." "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means our computers have given up trying to calculate how dead we should be." Through the comm system, Raven's voice came through, clear and cheerful. "Hey, Command, just wanted to let you know I'm setting up shop next to the reactor. The readings here are getting really interesting. I've never seen ambient radiation patterns like this." Dr. Hextali's voice joins from the medical shelter. "Raven, please describe your current physical condition." "Feeling great, Doc. Actually better than great. It's like someone turned up the heat in a cold room, you know? Really comfortable down here." "She's comfortable," Dr. Hextali repeated flatly. "In Class 10 radiation that should be causing immediate cellular collapse." "Gets better," Raven continued. "The radiation is making the metal work so much easier. I can practically see the molecular structure of these components. It's like having X-ray vision." Chief Engineer Vokness pushed through the crowd in the command center. "Did she just say the radiation is giving her enhanced perception?" "That appears to be the case," Commander Thelwyn replied grimly. "Sir, that's impossible. Radiation doesn't enhance biological functions, it destroys them." "Maybe for our species," Security Chief Kronville muttered. "Apparently humans operate on different principles." The external alarm systems reached a new pitch of urgency as the storm front approached. Through the station's reinforced viewports, they could see space itself beginning to glow with the intensity of the approaching radiation wave. "All stations, this is your final warning. Solar radiation storm will reach the station in 8 minutes. All personnel must be in designated shelters immediately." "Raven," Commander Thalwyn called through the comm, "you need to get to shelter. This is beyond anything we've measured." "Thanks for the concern, Commander, but I'm exactly where I need to be. Besides, I think I'm going to enjoy this." Enjoy it. She was going to enjoy a radiation storm that could sterilize a planet. "Sir!" Dr. Hextali's voice was tight with a mixture of professional fascination and existential terror. "I've been analyzing Earth's environmental data. I think I understand what we're dealing with." "Explain." "We classified Earth as a Category 2 world based on gravity and atmospheric composition. But we miss something crucial about their radiation environment, which is, Earth orbits a G-dimensional star at close range. The planet receives massive amounts of solar radiation, cosmic radiation, and background radiation from space. What we considered minimal exposure is actually a constant bombardment that would be lethal to most galactic species." Communications Officer Nimkar's form stopped flickering. "Are you saying humans evolved in a high radiation environment?" "I'm saying humans evolved in what we would classify as a Class 8 radiation environment. What they call normal background radiation is what we call hazardous exposure." The implications hit the command center like a physical blow. "Dear Void," Chief Engineer Vokness whispered. "They're not fragile. They're radiation adapted. More than adapted, Dr. Hextally continued. Their entire biology appears to be optimized for high radiation environments. Their cellular repair mechanisms, their immune systems, their metabolic processes. Everything is designed to not just survive, but thrive under radiation exposure. But their gravity is so weak, Security Chief Cronvell protested. They look so fragile. Their gravity is weak because their planet is smaller. But smaller planets have less magnetic shielding, which means more radiation reaches the surface. Earth's weak gravity comes with compensation we never considered. Commander Thelwyn was staring at the displays showing Raven working calmly in conditions that would kill him in seconds. So, when we put her in safe areas with minimal radiation, we were essentially putting her in an environment that was hostile to her biology, like forcing a deep ocean species to live in shallow water. And now she's in her natural element. The radiation storm hit mining station Kepler 4-38 at exactly 1547 station time. Every piece of electronic equipment not protected by the deepest shielding immediately failed. Emergency power systems screamed warnings before shutting down to prevent permanent damage. The station's outer hull began to glow with absorbed radiation as energy levels climbed beyond anything the designers had imagined possible. In the core shelters, 3,247 beings from dozens of species huddled behind radiation barriers that were straining at their limits. Medical equipment monitored everyone constantly, watching for signs of radiation poisoning that could kill within hours. And through it all, Raven's voice came over the comms system, clear and cheerful. Wow, this is amazing. The energy readings are off the charts. I can actually see the reactor's molecular structure now. This is going to make the repairs so much easier. Dr. Hextally was frantically trying to get readings on Raven's condition through the storm interference. Her biological signs are extraordinary. Her cellular activity has increased by 340%. Her immune system is functioning at levels we've never recorded. She's not just surviving this radiation. She's being enhanced by it. Enhanced how? Commander Thelwo demanded. Her reaction time has improved. Her strength indicators are climbing. Her cognitive function is accelerating. The radiation is acting like some kind of biological supercharger. That's not possible. Sir, we're dealing with a species that evolved on a planet that experiences solar storms as routine weather. This isn't extraordinary for them. This is what they're built for. Chief Engineer Vokness was monitoring the reactor systems through heavily shielded instruments. Raven, what's your status on the repairs? Almost done with the primary coupling. Just need to realign the secondary manifolds and we should be good to go. This radiation is making the metals so easy to work with. It's like everything is perfectly heated for welding. She's welding in a Class 12 radiation storm, Security Chief Cronvell said flatly. She's using stellar radiation as a work tool. 30 minutes until reactor critical failure, the automated systems announced. Emergency core shutdown required to prevent cascade collapse. Core shutdown meant the station would lose all power, including life support. With 3,247 beings in the shelters, they had maybe 6 hours of emergency air before facing a choice between radiation death and suffocation. Raven, Commander Thowlin called urgently. We're running out of time. If the reactor goes critical, no worries, Commander. I see the problem. The cascade failure is being triggered by microfractures in the containment system. Easy fix, but I need to work directly on the core housing. The core housing? Chief Engineer Vokness sounded like he was watching someone volunteer for suicide. Raven, the core housing is the most radioactive area on the station. Even during normal operations, it's instant death for any known species. Perfect. Should give me all the energy I need for precision work. Through the static-filled surveillance feeds, they watched Raven approach the reactor core, a sphere of contained stellar fury that was leaking enough radiation to cook a battleship. She walked up to it like she was approaching a cozy fireplace. Readings around the core? Dr. Hextally asked. Class 15, Communications Officer Nimkar reported. Theoretical maximum on our measurement scale. And Raven, according to her biological monitors, she's never been healthier. Commander Thelwyn realized they weren't just dealing with a human who could survive radiation. They were dealing with a species that had evolved in what the rest of the galaxy considered hell. And apparently, hell was exactly where humans felt most at home. The revelation sparked an immediate crisis in the emergency command center. as the full implications began to sink in. Deputy Commander Yelthin pulled up Earth's classification files with shaking appendages. Sir, if Dr. Hextall's analysis is correct, we need to immediately reclassify not just humans, but Earth itself. Reclassify how? Commander Thalwyn asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Currently, Earth is listed as Category 2, low-risk world with minimal environmental hazards, suitable for colonization by most galactic species. Yelthorn's voice was getting progressively more strained. Based on what we are observing, it should be classified as Category 14, extreme hazard world, unsuitable for habitation by any known species. Category 14 doesn't exist, Security Chief Cronvell pointed out. It does now, Dr. Hextall interjected from the medical bay. I'm watching biological readings that suggest Raven is being powered by radiation levels that would sterilize our homeworlds. We need new categories for worlds that are actively hostile to galactic life. Through the comm system, they could hear Raven humming again. This time, what sounded like an ancient human working song. The casual contentment in her voice while working in apocalyptic conditions was somehow more disturbing than screaming would have been. Raven, Commander Thelwyn called, can you describe what you're seeing at the reactor core? Oh, it's beautiful, Commander. The radiation patterns are creating these amazing interference waves. It's like looking at the universe's blueprint. I can see exactly where each microfracture is forming and predict the cascade failure patterns. Chief Engineer Voknes was frantically checking his instruments. She's describing quantum-level perception. The radiation is letting her see molecular structures in real time. That's impossible, protested Stellar Engineer Cunot, who had joined the command center from the engineering shelter. Radiation destroys perception. It doesn't enhance it. For us, Dr. Hextall corrected. For humans, radiation appears to be a cognitive enhancer. Her brain activity is showing patterns we've never recorded in any species. Communications Officer Nimkar was monitoring communications from across the galactic sector. Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from other stations in the system. They're all requesting immediate evacuation assistance due to the solar storm. And, sir, 12 mining stations, 4 research outposts, and a military depot are all reporting critical system failures. They're abandoning their facilities. Because the radiation levels make repairs impossible. Commander Thelwyn felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. How many facilities in this system have human workers? There was a pause as Nimkar checked the personnel databases. Just us, sir. Raven is the only human currently assigned to this star system, so she's the only being in this entire star system who can function during a solar storm? It appears so, sir. The strategic implications were staggering. If humans could work in conditions that forced entire galactic installations to shut down, it meant their capabilities had been underestimated on a scale that defied comprehension. Sir, Chief Engineer Voknes said quietly, I need to report something else. Raven isn't just repairing the primary damage. She's identifying and fixing secondary issues that our diagnostics never detected. What kind of issues? Structural weaknesses that would have caused catastrophic failures within the next few months. Efficiency problems that were costing us 23% of our power output. Safety hazards that could have killed dozens of workers. She's doing all this while working in Class 15 radiation? She's doing this because she's working in Class 15 radiation. The energy is letting her see problems that our instruments can't detect. Dr. Hextall's voice joined the conversation with clinical fascination. I'm beginning to understand why humans spread across the galaxy so quickly, despite being classified as a fragile species. They weren't spreading in spite of their limitations. They were spreading because other species couldn't survive in the environments they found comfortable. You think they've been deliberately colonizing worlds we consider uninhabitable? Deputy Commander Yelthon asked. I think they've been colonizing worlds we never even surveyed, because we assumed they were death traps. Security Chief Cronvell was checking star charts with growing alarm. There are approximately 2,847 star systems in this galactic sector that we've classified as hostile due to radiation levels. If humans can not only survive but thrive in these conditions, it means there's an entire parallel civilization that we've never encountered because we physically can't go where they live. The command center fell silent as this possibility sank in. They'd been treating humans as a minor species with limited capabilities, but they might actually be looking at representatives of the galaxy's most widespread and environmentally adapted civilization. Raven, Commander Thelwyn called, his voice carefully controlled. How many humans are there in high radiation environments across the galaxy? Oh, tons. Most of my friends work mining ops, stellar engineering, deep space construction. You know, the good jobs where you can really feel the energy. Why? Directly, quote, "The good jobs," he repeated slowly. Yeah, the ones that pay well because they're supposed to be dangerous. Though I never really understood why they're considered dangerous. It's just normal work environment stuff. Chief Engineer Valkness was pulling up employment databases with shaking appendages. Sir, I'm seeing humans employed in hazardous duty positions across 847 star systems. Positions we classified as extreme risk, with hazard pay rates that reflect near certain death for most species, and they're treating them as normal jobs. Sir, according to these records, humans have a 99.7% survival rate in assignments that have a 34% survival rate for other species because the assignments aren't actually dangerous for them, Dr. Hextelli concluded. We've been paying them hazard bonuses for working in their preferred environment. Through the comm system, Raven's voice interrupted their existential crisis with characteristic cheerfulness. Okay, I think I've got this sorted out. The core is running better than it has in years. I also found some efficiency improvements that should boost power output by about 30%. Oh, and I reinforced the housing so it'll survive pretty much anything short of a direct stellar impact. How long did that take? Chief Engineer Valkness asked weakly. About 20 minutes. Would have been faster, but I stopped to grab more coffee. 20 minutes. Work that should have taken a full engineering team several days, completed in 20 minutes while standing in radiation that would have killed the engineering team instantly. Raven, Commander Thelwyn said, and his voice carried a note of something approaching reverence. What do you consider truly dangerous working conditions? Dangerous? I don't know. I guess maybe working too close to a black hole? The gravitational shear might be tricky. Or inside an active stellar core, that might get a little warm even for me. Why? Commander Thelwyn looked around the command center at the faces of beings who were realizing that their entire understanding of galactic civilization was fundamentally wrong. No reason, he said quietly. No reason at all. And that's when everyone understood that humans weren't the galaxy's weakest species. They might be the strongest. 6 hours after the solar storm began, Chief Engineer Valkness was staring at system diagnostics that made no sense according to everything he knew about engineering. This is impossible, he muttered, for the 15th time, scrolling through performance metrics that defied physical laws. The reactor is operating at 147% efficiency. Our theoretical maximum is 118%. Commander Thelwyn stood beside him in the emergency command center, watching readouts that showed their mining station functioning better than it ever had in its operational history. Explain what Raven did. Sir, she didn't just repair the coolant coupling. She redesigned it. While standing in Class 15 radiation, using improvised tools, she created a configuration that our best engineers said was theoretically impossible. Dr. Hextelli joined them, her medical scanner still showing readings from Raven's location that challenged fundamental biology. The radiation levels where she's working are now approaching Class 16. We don't have instruments rated for those measurements. And her condition? According to her biomonitors, she's never been healthier. Her cellular regeneration rate has increased by 450%. Her immune system is functioning at superhuman levels, and her cognitive processing speed is beyond our measurement capabilities. Through the comm system, Raven's voice carried the satisfied tone of someone completing a job well done. Okay, Command. I think I've got everything sorted down here. The reactor is running smoother than silk. I've reinforced the structural supports throughout this entire section, and I found about 30 other maintenance issues that needed attention. 30 other issues? Chief Engineer Valkness asked weakly. Nothing major, just efficiency problems, safety hazards, potential failure points. You know, routine stuff. Oh, and I redesigned the power distribution network to handle about twice the current load. Figured it might come in handy. Chief Engineer Valkness was scrolling through engineering reports with the expression of someone watching his profession become obsolete. She's describing modifications that would take my entire engineering corps 6 months to plan and implement. She did them in 6 hours. While working in radiation, that would kill your entire engineering corps in 6 seconds. Dr. Hextelli added helpfully. Security Chief Cronvell had been monitoring communications from across the star system. "Sir, we're receiving status reports from the other facilities affected by the solar storm. What's their situation?" "Complete shutdown across the board. 12 facilities have been evacuated. 4 are reporting critical system failures that will take weeks to repair, and the military depot is declaring the installation a total loss." Commander Thelwyn felt the full weight of what they were dealing with settle on his shoulders. "And we're operating at peak efficiency because of one human who treated a stellar apocalypse like routine maintenance." "Sir," Deputy Commander Yelthon interrupted from his administrative station, "I've been analyzing the economic implications of what we're witnessing." "Economics? If humans can perform critical repairs in conditions that shut down entire star systems, their labor value is incalculable. They're not just radiation-resistant workers, they're irreplaceable specialists for any operation in hostile environments." Chief Engineer Vok Ness was reviewing Raven's modifications with growing amazement. "It's not just that she can work in these conditions. She's better at engineering when she's working in these conditions. The radiation is enhancing her capabilities beyond anything we thought possible." "Enhanced how?" "Her precision is absolute. Her understanding of molecular structures is intuitive. She's not just fixing problems, she's optimizing systems in ways that our computers said were impossible." Through the surveillance feeds, they could see Raven organizing her tools with the casual efficiency of someone finishing a routine shift. The radiation levels around her would have sterilized small moons, but she looked like she was tidying up after a pleasant day at work. "Raven," Commander Thalwyn called, "are you ready to return to normal operations?" "Sure thing, Commander. Though I've got to say, this has been one of the best working days I've had since I got here. Really invigorating." "Invigorating," Dr. Hexthaler repeated flatly. "She found Class 16 radiation. Invigorating." "Sir," Communications Officer Nimkar announced, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Galactic Command. Put it through." The holographic display activated to show Supreme Admiral Kex Thane, whose crystalline form was radiating patterns that indicated extreme agitation. Behind him, the emergency command center of Galactic headquarters buzzed with activity. "Commander Thelwyn, report your status immediately. We've lost contact with every facility in your star system except yours." "Admiral, Mining Station Kepler 428 is fully operational. All critical systems are functioning above normal parameters." "That's impossible. Our stellar monitoring shows radiation levels that should have sterilized your entire sector." "Yes, sir. However, we had a human on staff who was able to maintain operations during the storm. The silence that followed could have been used to muffle supernovas." "A human," Supreme Admiral Kex Thane said slowly, "maintained operations during a Class 12 solar storm." "Class 16, actually, sir. The storm intensified beyond our measurement capabilities." "Commander, are you telling me that one human worker accomplished what entire emergency response fleets couldn't?" "Sir, she didn't just maintain operations, she improved them. Our facility is now running at efficiency levels we previously thought were impossible." Supreme Admiral Kex Thane's crystalline form stopped radiating entirely, a sign of complete shock in his species. "Commander, I need a full report on human capabilities immediately, and I need it classified at the highest levels." "Sir, if humans can function in Class 16 radiation, it means our entire understanding of galactic species capabilities is wrong. The strategic implications are..." He paused, apparently unable to find words. "Classification protocols for humanity are being revised, effective immediately." The transmission cut out, leaving the command center in silence. "Well," Chief Engineer Vok Ness said quietly, "I think we just changed galactic history." 3 days later, the emergency session of the Galactic Species Classification Council convened with unprecedented security protocols. Representatives from 847 species gathered in the Council's most secure facility, deep in the core of the capital world. Supreme Counselor Vel Prime called the session to order with an announcement that sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. "We are here to address the reclassification of species designation H7739, commonly known as humanity. Based on recent observations, their current Category 2 classification is inadequate." Senior Analyst Cornex presented the findings that had been gathered from Mining Station Kepler 4.88 and cross-referenced with human employment records across the galaxy. "Esteemed Council, Humans have been systematically assigned to what we classified as extreme hazard positions across 2,847 star systems, positions with mortality rates approaching 95% for most galactic species, and their performance in these positions, 99.7% survival rate with superior performance metrics. They're not just surviving in hostile environments, they're excelling in them. Council member Thexrel from the Outer Rim colonies raised a concern that had been troubling many delegates. If humans are this capable in extreme environments, why are they classified as Category 2? Because, Senior Analyst Cornex replied grimly, we measured them in what we considered safe environments, environments that are apparently suboptimal for their biology. Suboptimal how? Their performance improves dramatically as radiation levels increase. What we call lethal exposure appears to be what they call ideal working conditions. The implications rippled through the council chamber like shockwaves. Supreme Counselor Vel Prime called for the formal vote. All in favor of reclassifying humanity from Category 2 to Category 17? Category 17 doesn't exist, protested Council Member Yexkol. It does now, Supreme Counselor Vel Prime replied. Category 17. Species capable of functioning in environments considered unsurvivable by all other known galactic life forms. The vote was unanimous, but the real paradigm shift came when they began rewriting safety protocols across the galaxy. If humans can work safely in Class 16 radiation, Safety Director Nexqual announced to the Emergency Protocol Committee, then our definition of hazardous duty needs complete revision. How so? We've been defining hazardous conditions based on what would kill most galactic species. But if humans can not only survive but thrive in those conditions, it means we've been afraid of environments that are actually suitable for habitation by at least one species. The committee began the process of creating new safety classifications that accounted for human capabilities. It meant acknowledging that what they'd considered uninhabitable death traps might actually be valuable real estate. We're looking at approximately 12,000 star systems that were written off as too hostile for colonization, Safety Director Nexqual reported. If humans can thrive there, it represents the largest expansion of habitable space in galactic history. And the economic implications? Every extreme hazard assignment in the galaxy will need to be reclassified. Humans aren't performing hazardous duty, they're working in their optimal environment. 6 months later, Raven received a promotion that made her the highest paid maintenance worker in galactic history. Her new job description was simple: Environmental Specialist for Extreme Conditions. When Commander Thelwyn presented her with the promotion, he had one final question. Raven, knowing what we know now about human capabilities, is there anywhere in the galaxy that you would consider truly dangerous? Raven considered this seriously. Well, I've heard some of the older engineers talk about working inside active quasars. That might be a little challenging. Challenging, Commander Thelwick repeated. Yeah, but the energy levels would be incredible. I bet the precision work you could do in those conditions would be amazing. Commander Thelwyn realized that the galaxy hadn't just been wrong about human limitations. They'd been wrong about the very nature of what was possible, and somehow, that was both the most terrifying and most hopeful revelation in galactic history.